Merhaba, ben Ruşen Abbas. Ben Doğu Türkistan'da kökenli Uygur Türk'üyüm. Aynı zamanda Amerika vatandaşıyım. 31 senedir Amerika'da yaşıyorum. Şimdi ben sizlere Uygurların yaşadıklarını anlatmak isterim. Ama daha fazla izleyicilerine ulaşmak için devamını İngilizce konuşacağım. What's happening in East Turkestan right now is an active genocide. When you look at the Genocide Convention ratified in 1948, the United Nations Genocide Convention, there are 5 acts, 5 elements. If any one of them is happening, then you can call it genocide. But what's happening in East Turkestan currently meets all 5 of them. The first one is if the nation faces mental or physical torture. In the concentration camps, the Uyghurs are subject to mental and physical torture. They are facing starvation, dehydration, and they are forsaking their ethnic identity. And many of them are dying either in the concentration camps or shortly after they are being released. There are crematorias are being built next to the concentration camps. We are Muslims. Muslim people do not cremate bodies. It's against our religion. Yet, just to get rid of the evidence, the Chinese government is building crematorias. And secondly, the children, the Uyghur children, are subject to this genocide. Actually, there are media reports over 500,000 Uyghur children are taken from the Uyghur homes. They are being raised in state-run orphanages, forsaking their ethnic identity, forsaking their religion and their language and the culture. Uyghur women are subject to forced marriage with ETS Han Chinese. If the girl refused such a marriage because she has a boyfriend or lover or she doesn't know this guy, she will be persecuted. She will be sent to concentration camps as radicalized Islamic extremist because she did not want to marry Han Chinese, non-Muslim Han Chinese. So if a girl cannot choose who she wants to marry, or if she cannot refuse who she doesn't want to marry, what is that? That is what I call it being raped in the name of marriage. And also, the Chinese media itself reported there are 1.1 million Han Chinese cadres they deployed to Uyghur homes to live inside their houses. Just imagine, unexpectedly, you have people that's sent by the government coming inside of your home, living with you, supervising and monitoring your daily lives. And most of the men are taken to either the concentration camps or sent to prison. These Uyghur women at home are subject to sexual abuse, which is the largest in the history government-sponsored mass rape of the Uyghur women. And also, the Chinese regime brought back the slavery, basically, in the 21st century. The Uyghurs are subject to forced labor. So many fancy, famous brand names, such as, Nike, Adidas, Calvin Klein, Zara, such and such, there's like 83 large brand names. They're all using Uyghur slaves, basically. In front of our watch, in the 21st century, in the 2020, the Chinese government is making the Uyghur Muslims as slaves, basically. And using that money they made out of the Uyghurs' blood and the sweat, they're buying out the silence from the Muslim majority countries. With the power of the Belt and Road Initiative, and also debt trap diplomacy and the manipulation in the United Nations. Basically, the Chinese government is able to become the power able to strong-arm the world. We are very disappointed in the international communities because something like this is happening after the Second World War, the World War II, after the Holocaust. Never again is happening. As the Uyghurs living in diaspora, it's our responsibility to be the voice for those voiceless people. We have the freedom of raising awareness, to educate the international community because of the information blockade by the Chinese government, and also disinformation and the false narratives and the Chinese government's propaganda. They're not just having the Chinese media or Chinese people to do that. For example, in Turkey, the Chinese government is utilizing some of the Turkish people and they're spreading the Chinese communist regime's false narratives about the Uyghurs. Just like what's happening here in Turkey, it's not just Turkey, all over the world actually, also in the United States, Canada, Australia, they are using the local politicians, local scholars, even major media, basically bribing and then leveraging those people to spread disinformation. Therefore, we have a lot of work to do. We really need to educate people and they keep working on raising awareness because this is not just about the Uyghur people's human rights issue anymore. This is about the conscience of the world. This is a test for the humanity. When you look at a group of people like the Uyghurs, because of their ethnicity, because of their religion, because of their language, because of their cultural background, if they are facing genocide and the whole world community is being muted because of the Chinese blood money, this is actually undermining the rule of law, the world order, the democracy and freedom. What's happening in China, what's happening in East Turkestan, what the Chinese regime is doing in East Turkestan is not just staying there. They are expanding it. The Chinese government is manipulating and controlling the whole international community. When you look at it, what's happening in the United Nations, what's happening in the OIC, Organization for Islamic Cooperation, and what's happening in Hollywood, what's happening in the NBA. Basically, the Chinese blood money is buying the compliances of all these international organizations. Look what happened with WHO, the World Health Organization. Today, if everybody is wearing masks and so many people are subject to this pandemic, it's all because of the totalitarian Chinese regime's disinformation, punishing the whistleblowers when this epidemic from Wuhan started to spread, and when there were some doctors started to talk about it. Instead of warning the world community, the Chinese government basically hide the truth. Because of this, a disease from one city could be just the epidemic. It became pandemic of the world. Now the whole international community is paying for it. How many people died so far? So these people should remember, if you have any loved ones, relatives, lost their lives for this pandemic, it's all because of the China's authoritarian system. Any kind of original thought and any kind of faith is threat to an authoritarian communist regime. So don't think that this is happening thousands of miles away and that this is just staying with the Uyghurs in East Turkestan. Anybody who has a democracy and freedom or any kind of faith, the Chinese regime will not allow that. Anybody who cares for the future of their community, future of their country, this is the time to act. Not for us, but for your future, for your country's future, for the democracy of the world. You think that you are just doing a business today with China and getting some economic advantage. that's how it started in East Turkestan 70 years ago. That's how they do. That's how the Chinese regime works, little by little, manipulating, influencing, controlling. Before you know it, just like cancer, it will spread through the body. Before we came to Turkey, so we wrote to all the parties, all the leaders of all parties, including Justice and the Development Party, and also including respectful Çavuşoğlu. We did get a very positive response from majority of the party leaders. So we had some really good, very productive meetings, including with respectful Kılıçdaroğlu. There also some of the vice chairman of the Deva Party and the Future Party, and also MHP, and then Cumhuriyet Halk Party. So we were very pleased, very fortunate to receive such a support from Turkish government and the political leaders. And also, when this genocide started to come to the surface in Western media, Turkish government is actually the first and actually so far one and the only government from the Muslim majority countries to raise their voice so loud, and repeatedly they have criticized the Chinese government for such an unprecedented human rights atrocity that they are conducting against the Uyghur people. So we are very pleased with that. But a little bit of disappointment I have is I'm not sure if this is because it's a lack of our work or media not paying attention. Majority of the Turkish public, they are not aware of what's happening. Seems like there are certain people like the ones repeatedly talking about China's disinformation, Chinese Communist Party's false propagandas. They have the opportunity to speak on the major media, but I don't see much opportunity for the actual victims and the witnesses or people who speaks the truth. So that is one thing that I would like to see a little more, because with Turkish people we come from same root and we speak almost same language, and we feel so close to Turkish people. They are our brothers and sisters, and they in religion, in ethnicity, in historical connection. So I really want to see more Turkish people talk about this, and that's the only way we build a support from the community, by educating our colleagues, our friends. That's why I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you and raise awareness with your media here. What is happening to Uyghur people today is recognized by both parties, both Democrats and Republicans, that this is a human rights issue, and they have been very supportive. Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act, which became a law the last summer, was introduced by both parties. Therefore, the US government, however they did with the Trump administration, and we believe that it's going to continue with the Biden administration. Especially, like for me, this is personal, because my sister is taken by the Chinese government, and she's a retired medical doctor and speaks fluent Chinese. She doesn't need any kind of re-education or vocational training. With my personal feelings and personal connection to what's happening to the people in East Turkestan, I sincerely hope and pray that the Biden administration is going to take tangible steps to stop this genocide. Since I have a direct personal connection with what's happening in East Turkestan today, I sincerely hope that the current elected administration is going to take tangible action against China. The President-elect Biden was the person who actually said that what's happening in East Turkestan and what's happening to Uyghurs is genocide. And he repeatedly tweeted, and he was very vocal about China's crimes against Uyghur people. So I hope that this is going to continue. I should hope that this is not just a promise in the campaign to just get elected. And I sincerely hope that he's going to deliver and he's actually going to do something to stop this genocide. Last administration has been the most vocal, especially after 8 years under the President Obama. The last 4 years, those kind of unethical practice was being questioned, stopped, and raised in the international stages. But the thing is, in the West, some of the European countries and even in the United States, some people, they are pro-socialism, they are against the Western, imperialistic ideology, or they are against the many ideological socialism is beautiful. That is really nice when you read it in the books. But the Chinese system is not that beautiful socialistic ideology many people think that they want. Therefore, supporting the Chinese communist regime is not supporting the so-called idealistic socialism, because China is a totalitarian, authoritarian regime which undermines any kind of basic human rights. Therefore, my advice to many young people who thinks that the grass on the other side is greener, but the system that we have experienced is not nice. Trust me. So look at the current situation the Uyghurs are facing and imagine what the future of the world will be. If we don't stop this Chinese communist totalitarian regime now, just to look at East Turkestan and imagine the world that you are going to live for your children and for your next children, because that's how it's going to be.